something insane. But I have gathered a lot of different research, and we're going to see how it plays out. And I'm also going to do this kind of backwards. Um, I'm going to present an idea, and then I'm going to try to sort of like get to my point backwards. All right, so UFO encounters versus fairy encounters. If you line them up together and their properties and like the details of their encounters, and you look at a bunch of lists, you see that there are so many similarities over time that it's kind of stunning. I mean, I've been obsessing over this for like the last 2 years, but like people in the 1600s says the people in the 1600s said like fairies took them, whereas people in the 1960s said that aliens did. Every era has a story about like mysterious lights and strange visitors, and I feel like, what if they're describing the same phenomena with different vocabularies? So that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to first talk about a bunch of references and then like explain where I'm putting all this information from. Okay, so The Secret Commonwealth by Robert Kirk. Summary: Scottish minister Robert Kirk compiled first-hand reports from people who claim to see or interact with subterranean invisible people. Rather than dismissing them, he treated these as sláinte I believe is what he called them. They're like good people. They're a parallel species that coexisted with humanity. He described them as of a middle nature betwixt man and angel, beings of fine, airy substance living in hills and mounds, visible only at twilight. His key idea was they're not imaginary, they're subtle, moving through our world unseen, influencing dreams, weather, and fortune. It's one of the first attempts to treat supernatural folklore as a real hidden ecology of intelligent life, centuries before UFOs ever became a thing. Part of the quotes of his book, he said these Siths or fairies that they called Sláinte, or the good people, are of a middle nature, like they're like a middle nature betwixt man and angel, where demons were thought to be like of old, or daemons. They are intelligent, studious spirits and have with light changeable bodies, like called astrals, somewhat of the nature of condensed cloud, best seen in twilight. They live in little green hills and enjoy the conveniences of meat, drink, cloth, lodging, and mirth, more than humans, yet are not subject to death. There's like a very like liminal worldview sort of deal, like parallel realm, like liminal realm, this ultra terrestrial realm. They have continual intercourse with our world, and sometimes we with them, by dreams, visions, and instances of apparitions. Their bodies being composed of congealed air, their dwellings and state invisible to us, save when like they please to discover themselves in fits and seasons. You got fairy counters in remote hills, forest, twilight hours, strange lights, music, humming, time distortion. One night in the Feywild is, however, X years outside. Abductions, bargains, warnings, being in the woods with red eyes. These subterraneans have bodies and senses like ours, but they're finer, quicker, and lighter, and they have agency over that, like, travel between that sort of like other plane. Kirk treated fairies not as myth, but as an invisible race parallel to ours. His witnesses sound like abductees, like paralyzed, dazzled by lights, lured into the forest, missing time. Let me see. Then there's John Keel with the Mothman Prophecies, which I obsess over a lot. Journalist John Keel was a fucking madman. He investigated like a wave of strange events in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Sightings of a winged humanoid dubbed the Mothman, growing lights, UFOs, phone interference, psychic messages. He discovered that witnesses reported not only monsters, but patterns, prophecies, coincidences, mental phenomena that echoed ancient stories of omens and angels. Keel concluded that these were not isolated creatures or aliens, but manifestations of a single adaptable phenomenon that mirrors the human belief. The Mothman became a 20th century fairy, a herald between worlds. This phenomenon, he said, has always been with us. The fairy faith of Ireland, the demons and angels of the Middle Ages, the mysterious airships of the 1890s. They're all part of the same great complex, only the interpretation changes. We see now that our culture, we see what our culture allows us to see. Then you got like cryptids, speaking of that. So Mothman is a cryptid. Bigfoot in sort of like high strangeness circles, they're like guardians of like Feywild portals, of that of otherworld portal. Then you have like Dogman, which is the sort of like werewolf that has been around, the sort of like lycanthrope or like like wolf person, that it has been spotted all across like history. There's Kentucky goblins, which is a huge, intense case, kind of like out in Kentucky, of like small goblins like coming from mine shafts and harassing homes. You get a bunch of shit in national parks, like I want to say. Mountains, like I said, mine shafts. Fun fact: if you get there's like missing persons reports of like if you get a map of missing reports persons report and layer it over in the US and layer that map over what is it called the Mammoth Cave system in the US, like the correlations between the amount of missing people that should go missing in the mountains, like or like near in or near the mountains, is insane. It's like it's scary. I'll probably send that in the chat. Um, but I don't know. And what's the biggest mountain range connected to the Mammoth Cave system? The fucking Appalachians. So it's like you also get this places with so much folklore about fairies and missing cultures and stuff like that. They were like they were they were surround like the Appalachians and Yellowstone and places like this, places of like great nature. Where people sort of like that can get lost. So you get that like fairies connected to nature, all that stuff. There's another one, Flying Saucer, the Center of Their Mind, another John Keel one. The summary of that one is like it gathers all of his columns and his lectures from the height of UFO mania. Here he sharpens his ultra-terrestrial hypothesis. The UFO phenomenon isn't spacecraft. It's a mind-shaping intelligence that wears whatever mask a culture can accept. Angels in the past, angels today. He notes recurring trickster traits, misinformation, psychic contact, psychical traces, deliberate absurdity. Like, to Keel, the mystery is both internal and psychological, a mirror held up to humankind's need for meaning. He thinks that this phenomenon controls the narrative as much as our experiences of it. Um, he tracked hundreds of witnesses. He noticed pattern matched with old folklore, like glowing eyes, prophetic disasters, impossible coincidence, just set in the atomic age. He's like, we're not dealing with successive waves of visiting spacemen, but a single intelligence that has been like manipulating mankind for centuries. And then, isolated roads, deserts, skies, blinding lights, engine silence, missing time, memory gaps, telepathic messages, prophecies. All of these symptoms have always been here, is what he's saying. Then there's other ones that I'll probably just sort of like move fast, but there was another astronomer and computer pioneer, Jacques Vallée, cataloged hundreds of global UFO reports, compared them to centuries of folklore about elves, sylphs, dwarves, jinn, fairies, and it's all identical motifs: glowing craft or spears, abductions or missing time, communications and riddles, warnings or moral lessons. Vallée proposed that UFO are not extraterrestrial spacecraft, but part of a control system, which was what John Keel was saying. Um, the phenomenon exists, but it's impossible to try to understand. So this idea of the ultra-terrestrial, it's like entities that aren't from outer space, but right beside us, slipping in and out of view depending on our mindset and technology. So I call it, like, at this point, I use the word extraterrestrials, but I'm always thinking like the fucking fairies, the Feywild is real. And whenever I take a shitload of shrooms, it just the implications are insane. But yeah, I wrote a bunch of like different accounts, and I'll go through like some very quickly. Like Irish fairy folklore: witnesses saw dancing blue white orbs crossing a bog, vanishing when approached. Locals call them the good people's lamps. So again, lights in nature. Shepherd fell asleep near a fairy knoll. He woke to music and feasting behind the hills. Days passed in joy. When he finally returned home, his friends had been dead 50 years. So abductions and missing times. Let me see. Woman taken in the mist. She just vanished in a fog on her way to church. This is Feywild bullshit, those fans who are fucking like all D&D people. Then you get the lights over Point Pleasant, omens of death. Let me see. Oh, yeah, and then the gentlemen in green are the same thing as the men in black. In Scottish tradition, in Kirk's time, those who saw fairies sometimes received visits from green-coated gentlemen, warning them to keep silent. But in Keel's files, witnesses of UFOs meant men in black suits with hypnotic eyes and fake credentials who delivered the same message. Like, it's the same script. Witness sees something forbidden that they're not supposed to see, and then emissaries arrive to preserve secrecy. So yeah, you get in fairy lore, lights in the woods, you get taken underground, time dilation, small shining beings, warnings, riddles, music, yelling, crying, mimics, babies in the woods. And UFO lore, it's lights in the sky, you get taken aboard a craft, missing time, you get different types of UFOs like Greys and Nordics, warnings and riddles, music, yelling, crying, mimics, all that stuff. It's the same rules. You swap the setting and the vocabulary and you get the same story. The encounter always happens at the edge of the map, between worlds and between explanations. And I know I'm getting close to my time, but it's like even there's this other thing called like screen memories. Screen memories are this idea that were developed by Freud, which is the only thing I don't like about it. But screen memories are recollections that conceal rather than reveal. The mind swaps in like a symbolic memory to cover something too strange for the mind to understand. Keel, Valley, and later abductee researchers noticed that UFO witnesses often remember events only after hypnosis. There's some crazy unethical shit that I just learned of like people hypnotherapists or people that are skilled in hypnosis uh, inducing abductions from that sort of psychical state. And someone who will never believe in what is it called? Someone who's never believed in aliens and never took any of that serious. They go and do that hypnosis, and they can't remember the session, but they're terrified of aliens the next time, and like they hold this very real belief. Let me see. Uh, I almost want to. I don't have the space to talk about it, but like I just think that like apart from UFOs and fairies being the same thing, like maybe these encounters don't even happen like outside of us. Like I already told like ultra terrestrials and beside us and alongside us, but I almost think they happen like through us, bubbling up from whatever shared dream space Carl Jung called the collective unconscious. Like I feel like a lot of what we experience now are these sort of like cyclical moments of synchronicity, communications and messages and lights from something else that a lot of spiritualists call like source or universe or all this stuff. So I don't know. It's all insane. It's a little crazy, but it's like I don't know. It's if something like ancient keeps knocking on the walls of our collective imagination, like like what do we do? And like what if it's I'm always caught in the like I'm a very spiritual person, so like I have a lot of like really thorough belief in like spirituality and universe and source and my relationship with it, but like what if the buck doesn't stop there? There are so many fucking answers that we don't know about, like all these different things. And I'm going to continue asking it manically and screaming it into the woods that like UFOs and fairies are the same thing. They're part of the same system. There might even be some trickster dialogue going on to sort of like continue manipulating what we can see. And and I it'll be a different day, but I have the amount of like UFO I've seen things in the sky. I regularly see things like I don't want to go in that direction because I'm gonna sound insane. But like regularly seeing balls of light, regularly seeing apparitions when I was a child, having my own aspect of like having my own event of like a screen memory being replaced. I have a time jump that I could never explain when I was a child. Like these things have just they create questions, and finding out what the answer is isn't really going to change anything, but there's that internal thirst of like what the fuck happened to me and what's going on and what can I continue trying to understand about the nature of reality, and that I think is always going to have me on its hook. So yeah, that's my stuff. I don't know if you guys have any
Incredible.
questions.